Welcome to All Pro Football Data. My name is Jim Coburn, and today's episode we're talking about Rome Odunze, wide receiver out of Washington, and we're going to be breaking down a lot of different factors to his production profile and other sort of things to kind of look at in terms of him. Is he worth a top 10 selection in this particular draft class? Is he? Is he really worth a top 10 selection? We're about to find out. One interesting thing to talk about him in 2019, he was named Gatorade Player of the Year in Nevada as a senior in high school. So I don't know what that has to do with his overall projection, but I think that's a pretty decent accomplishment to talk about. Going to offensive market share score. So if you're new to the channel, new to the work that I do, offensive market share is where you take an individual statistic and you divide it by the team total. You compare it against positional peers to get a percentile score, and that score is weighed against the age score of a prospect, which gives you the offensive market share score. Take a minute to look at this. If you want more context for it, you can also go to the description to kind of learn about it. In terms of Odunze's wide receiver market share score, he had a 75 in terms of his passing yardage market share production. He had a 90 percentile in terms of total offensive market share, and he also had a 80 percentile in terms of his touchdown market share score. All of these is also based on a 3,710 wide receiver sample since the 1969 NFL draft class. So overall production for him, looking at it from a glance, didn't quite hit the Pro Bowl averages or the All-Pro averages in terms of his receiving yardage market share production, but he did hit the marks you're looking for in terms of starter potential and did hit above the Pro Bowl threshold at the position. Looking at his wide receiver efficiency scores. Now, efficiency scores is where you take the raw statistics and then you rank them against positional peers to get a percentile score, and that score is again weighted against the age of a prospect. Touchdown percentage is the total number of touches divided by total touchdowns to kind of give you an idea of how many touchdowns he had per touch, and these kind of give you the idea of efficiency because you're trying to figure out how efficient is this wide receiver, if you will. And based on that information, when we look at Rome Odunze in terms of his efficiency scores, his RAV, which is yards per reception, was in the 80 plus percentile, and his touchdown percentage also was in the 80 plus percentile, which when you look at the All-Pro average, the All-Pro threshold, Pro Bowl average, Pro Bowl threshold, starter average, starter threshold, he hit all the numbers that you're looking for in terms of that particular metric, which I think is a pretty good sign for him. Then when you look at adjusted production scores, these kind of look at the context of the production. So the age of a prospect is scored from youngest to oldest on the day they are drafted. Then the age score is added to the offensive market share scores, strength of schedule score, and then the SRS, which is the strength of team score. Those scores are then ranked to get the MSA score, which is the market share, strength of schedule, strength of team, and age score combined. And then the pass score is the market share scores, efficiency scores, age score, strength of team, and strength of schedule score. And all of these scores give you context for his data. How productive was he for his age? How productive was he for his level of competition? And how productive was he for the team that he played on? It gives you context for how productive he was. You know, how good of a team was he on? What was his level of competition? How old was he? That's what adjusted production scores do. And based on those numbers, Odunze did pretty well. Not as well as other wide receivers in this particular draft class, but he did well. His age score is in the 80 percentile. His MSA score is in the 84 percentile. And his pass score is in the 90 percentile. Those are not bad numbers. When you look at data comparisons for him, he tested in the same vein as guys like Derek Hagan, Percy Harvin, Jameson Williams, Jeremy Maclin, A.J. Brown, Maurice Stovall, and Curtis Conway are kind of the main wide receivers he tested similar to based on his overall production profile. Now, in terms of an outlook for Rome Odunze, he profiles as a Pro Bowl to starter level prospect. The weaknesses in his production profile are in his overall receiving market share and his touchdown market share data. Odunze has the traits to become an outstanding NFL wide receiver, but he might be overvalued as a top 5 to top 10 selection in the draft this season. I am not saying that Rome Odunze is not a top 5 wide receiver in this draft class. What I'm telling you is this: he should not be a top 10 selection in this particular draft class. That is what I'm saying. Please don't take my words out of context, people. So I think he's a good wide receiver prospect. I just don't think that you take a guy like that in the top 10. I don't think most wide receivers are worthy of going in the top 10. And I think in terms of his overall projection, you're looking at a guy that can be a decent wide receiver. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think that he's going to give you, elite numbers at the next level. I mean, it could happen. Don't get me wrong; it's possible, but I don't think that you're going to get a guy that's like a Hall of Fame player out of him. I could be wrong. I could eat my words, of course, again, but I'm a data guy. I have to put my foot down on guys sometimes, and I put my foot down on Rome right now. That he's a good player. He's a good prospect. But I think he might be a little overvalued. I think people are kind of hyping him up a little too much. I think there's other wide receivers, Brian Thomas Jr., for example, that have better overall data than him, that might end up being better players than him in the long run. So with all that stuff out of the way, thank you guys so much for following and watching this episode. My name is Jim Coburn. You can follow my other work at Jimetrics, at Jimetrics on Twitter. Also check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/jcoburn. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace!